Is the dark chosen path calling you? 5 hidden signs you can't miss. There's a question that may have haunted you more than once in the quietest moments of your life. When everything external falls away and you're left with nothing but your breath and your being, is there something more? Not more in the material sense, but more beneath the surface of reality. Something thick, dark, ancient, and magnetic. Something that feels like it's been following you your entire life, not to harm you, but to wake you up. If you've ever felt that, you might already be standing at the edge of the dark chosen path. This isn't the path of light workers, lavandlite mantras, or sanitized spirituality. This is the road far fewer dare to walk, the dark chosen path. It's not about evil. It's not about rebellion. It's about depth. It's about going where others refuse to look, into the hidden, the painful, the raw, and the real. And the strange thing is, if this path is calling you, you've probably known it your whole life, but no one ever gave you the language to describe it. No one ever said, "Hey, you're not broken. You're being summoned."
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The first hidden sign is the unshakable sense that you don't belong. It's not just social awkwardness. It's not just introversion. It's the deep, existential knowing that something about this world feels off. Like you were dropped into the wrong timeline, the wrong family, the wrong society. You look around and everything feels artificial. You see people chasing things, status, money, validation, and you wonder, is that it? You've probably tried to fit in. You may have even succeeded for a while. But no matter how much you conform, there's a whisper inside you that keeps saying, this isn't who you are. That's not a flaw. That's the first echo of the calling. The dark path begins with the rejection of the ordinary. Not because you're entitled, but because your soul remembers something extraordinary. And when everyone else is busy numbing themselves with distractions, you're the one lying awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, and feeling a presence in the room that no one else can feel. That presence is you, the real you, the ancient you, the one who's been through lifetimes of forgetting and is now clawing its way back to the surface. The second hidden sign is the magnetic pull toward the unknown. You're not just curious, you're haunted by questions. You're obsessed with what lies beyond the veil. You want to know why we're here, where we go when we die, what consciousness really is. You've probably found yourself reading about ancient civilizations, lost knowledge, mysticism, or near-death experiences, not for entertainment, but because something inside you needs to remember. But it's like you're piecing together a puzzle you didn't know you were holding. You might be drawn to symbols that feel strangely familiar. You might have recurring dreams that don't make sense but feel more vivid than waking life. You might even feel like time bends around you during moments of deep silence. These are not coincidences. These are signals. The dark path isn't found through logic. It's felt. It calls to you through synchronicities, through dreams, through gut feelings so strong they feel like prophecy. But here's the thing, when the call comes, it doesn't feel like a gift. It feels like a breakdown. And that's the third hidden sign your life begins to fall apart. Not in ways others can easily see. Sometimes it's subtle. Your relationships start to feel hollow. Your job becomes unbearable. The things that once brought you joy now feel like distractions. You might feel like you're losing your mind, but in truth, you're losing your mask. This is the part where most people turn back. They think something's wrong with them. They seek therapy, medication, escape. And while those things have their place, they are not the cure for a spiritual awakening. Because what you're experiencing isn't a breakdown, it's a disintegration of the false self. Your soul is stripping away everything that isn't aligned with your true frequency. And that process is brutal. It's lonely, it's terrifying, but it's sacred. At this point, you're standing in the void. You no longer trust the world's rules, but you haven't yet learned the laws of the unseen. You're floating, isolated, raw. And that's when the fourth hidden sign appears. You begin to attract the strange and unexplainable. People start appearing in your life with messages that feel divinely timed. You see numbers repeating everywhere. You experience moments of time dilation or sudden emotional waves for no reason. You're not imagining things. You are entering the threshold between dimensions. The veil is thinning because your perception is sharpening. You might even begin to feel energies. Walk into a room and sense heaviness. Touch a tree and feel its pulse. Wake up with dreams that feel like instructions from another realm. You are not crazy. You are activating. You are becoming sensitive to the deeper architecture of reality. And this isn't a trend or a phase. This is the moment where you begin to cross over, where you are no longer just a seeker, but a walker of the hidden path. And then comes the fifth and most terrifying sign, the silence that follows. The call becomes quiet. The synchronicities slow down. The dreams become blurry. You feel abandoned by the very force that awakened you. But this silence is the final test. It is here that you must choose to walk the path with no guarantee, with no applause, with no roadmap. Because the dark chosen path is not about results. It's about transformation. The silence is the womb, the cocoon, the space in which your ego dies and your soul begins to speak. So I ask you, have you felt these signs? Have you noticed the quiet unraveling of what you thought was real? Have you sensed the invisible pull towards something you can't describe but can no longer deny? If so, the path is calling. But the question is, will you answer it? The hidden frequency of the dark calling, when the world stops making sense. There comes a point on this journey when the world no longer behaves the way it used to. Things that once made complete sense, career goals, social norms, even your own thoughts begin to feel foreign, even absurd. You walk through the same streets, talk to the same people, go through the same motions, but something invisible has shifted. The colors are muted. The conversations feel rehearsed. The laughter around you sounds hollow. And you start to ask a question that you never dared to before. Is this all a performance? If you've reached this point, you're not broken, you're tuning in. You are beginning to detect the hidden frequency beneath reality, the subtle vibration that has always been there but was previously drowned out by noise, routine, and fear. That frequency is what I call the dark calling. It's not dark in the sense of evil. It's dark in the sense of depth, of mystery, books of the unknown. It doesn't shout, it hums, and once you hear it, nothing else satisfies. This is when everything external begins to feel irrelevant. But no matter how much success you achieve, it feels like sand slipping through your fingers. No matter how many people surround you, you feel alone in a crowd. It's not because you're antisocial. It's because your soul has started listening to a different signal. And that signal is not interested in comfort. It's interested in truth. Here's where the path begins to get dangerous but also beautiful. When you start to hear the frequency of the calling, you also start to see through the illusions of the world. You begin to sense the unconscious patterns people live in. You notice how much of society is built on fear, fear of not being enough, fear of death, fear of being seen for who we really are. And you begin to realize how deeply those fears had been shaping your life. You didn't choose most of your beliefs. They were handed to you. You inherited them. But now, the dark path is asking you to dismantle them, one by one. And that's terrifying, because every belief you question, every identity you shed, feels like a small death. Who are you without your job title? Without your religion? Without your family's approval? Without your social media mask? The answer is not something you can read in a book. It's something you can only discover by stepping into the unknown. And that unknown is where the dark path begins to transform you. You start to crave solitude, not to escape people, but to find yourself. You begin to talk less because you realize how much of what people say is just noise. You stop trying to be understood because you realize that most people are still operating in the dream. And you don't blame them. You were there once too. But now, something ancient is waking up inside you, and it doesn't want small talk. It wants alignment. It wants depth. It wants truth, no matter how uncomfortable. This is where the real work begins. Not outer work, but inner excavation. You begin to dig through the layers of your conditioning. The trauma you buried. The beliefs you swallowed. The lies you told yourself to survive. And as you dig, you start to feel something underneath all of it, a presence. A power you forgot was even yours. It's not dramatic. It's not flashy. It's quiet, steady, like the roots of an ancient tree. And it tells you, without words, you're not becoming something new. You're remembering who you've always been. But this remembering comes with a cost. You'll lose relationships. You'll lose interest in things that once defined you. You'll feel isolated, not because no one loves you, but because you no longer speak the language of the asleep. And yet, in that solitude, you'll find something priceless: authenticity. Not the curated, Instagram-approved version. The kind that burns through your skin and says, "This is me." Raw, unfiltered, unapologetic. And here's the paradox. The more you surrender to that authenticity, the more magnetic you become. People will start to feel your energy before you say a word. Some will be drawn to it. Others will be repelled. But you won't care, because you're no longer living to be liked. You're living to be real, and that reality will shake the fabric of every room you enter. So let me ask you this. Have you started to lose interest in everything you used to chase? Have you begun to crave truth over comfort, solitude over stimulation, silence over noise? If so, you are already walking the edge of the dark, chosen path. The world may not understand you, but the universe does. It's watching, it's waiting, and it's whispering to you in every synchronicity, every dream, every moment of stillness. Will you keep pretending you don't hear it? Or will you follow the frequency and see where it leads? Crossing the threshold, why your darkness is the doorway to power. There's a moment on this path that doesn't come with fireworks or praise. It comes in silence, in solitude, when no one is watching. It's the moment when you stop running from your darkness and, for the first time, face it. not to fight it, not to conquer it, but to understand it. And in that moment, everything changes. Because your darkness, the thing you feared the most, turns out to be the doorway to your greatest power. Most people live their entire lives avoiding their shadow. They bury their pain, suppress their rage, deny their desires. They wear masks to appear strong, happy, perfect. But those of us on the dark chosen path are different. We were never allowed to live in illusion for long. We were born into pain, into questions, into an unshakable sense that something was hidden just beneath the surface. And now, standing at the threshold, we realize that the very thing we thought was our curse, our intensity, our emotions, our sensitivity is actually our gift. When you cross this threshold, you stop apologizing for who you are. You stop minimizing your truth to make others comfortable. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never built to hold the weight of your spirit. And instead, you begin to expand. Slowly at first, quietly. But with every breath, you reclaim pieces of yourself that you once gave away to survive. It's not a glamorous process. In fact, it often looks like destruction from the outside. You may walk away from careers, relationships, identities that no longer resonate. But you may find yourself crying for no reason, purging lifetimes of suppressed emotion. You may spend weeks in solitude, questioning everything you thought you knew. But this is the dark night of the soul, not because you're lost, but because your soul is shedding the lies it was wrapped in. And in that darkness, something sacred begins to stir. A presence, a knowing, a power that doesn't shout, but hums. It tells you that you are no longer who you were, but not yet who you are becoming. You are in between worlds. You are walking between dimensions. You are becoming the bridge. And that's when you realize the darkness didn't come to destroy you. It came to initiate you. This initiation is brutal, but it's also beautiful. Because when you emerge from it, you carry something that can't be faked. Embodiment. You don't just talk about healing, you've lived it. You don't preach about awakening, you bled for it. And that lived experience becomes your frequency. People can feel it. They may not understand you, but they'll sense something different, something ancient, something real. And here's the secret that keeps unfolding. The deeper you go into your darkness, the more light you unlock. Not the superficial light of performance or perfection, but the radiant light of truth, tools of presence, and of power. You begin to realize that light isn't the absence of darkness, it's born through it. You become a living paradox, grounded but otherworldly, fierce but soft, silent but thunderous. So many of us were taught to fear our darkness, to believe it made us bad, broken, dangerous. But the truth is, the parts of you that scare you the most are the parts that hold your magic. Your rage is your boundary. Your grief is your wisdom. Your fear is your compass. Every emotion you've labeled as too much is actually a portal into your deeper self. And when you stop resisting them, they stop controlling you. They become fuel. They become fire. And you become unstoppable. But this power isn't about control. It's about alignment. It's about walking through the world with a presence so rooted in truth that nothing can shake you. It's about speaking only when your words carry weight. It's about moving only when your soul says yes. It's about becoming so attuned to your inner compass that you no longer need external validation. You become the authority of your own life. This is what it means to be chosen. not chosen by some external force, chosen by your own soul, chosen to walk a path that most people will never understand, chosen to carry a frequency that disrupts illusions, that awakens others, that brings light into the places where light was once feared. So I ask you, what parts of yourself have you still not faced? What truth are you still afraid to speak? What power are you still afraid to claim? Because the threshold is here, the path is open, and the darkness is no longer something to avoid. It's something to enter. It's something to become. The awakening in the shadows, becoming the light you were meant to fear. There's something no one tells you about awakening. It doesn't end in light. It begins with darkness, dances through chaos, and then births a light so powerful, it scares even you. When you finally reach this stage, when you've walked through the silence, faced your own shadow, and let go of everything you were pretending to be, what's left is not just clarity. It's radiance, but not the kind that glows softly for approval, the kind that burns with truth, the kind that disrupts, the kind that awakens others just by existing. You become the light you were once taught to fear. This is a sacred transformation. It's not one you broadcast. It's quiet, internal, yet unmistakable. You realize you don't need to prove anything. You don't need to fix others. You don't need to be anything more than what you already are. Because what you become isn't a version of yourself, it's the truth of yourself. And that truth is magnetic, chaotic, divine. You walk differently now, not because you're superior, but because you're anchored. You no longer rush. You no longer chase. You move when it's time and rest when it's called for. You listen more than you speak. You observe more than you react. You feel the energy behind words, the intention behind actions. You've become sensitive, but not weak. Vulnerable, but not fragile. You've become a fully awakened storm wrapped in stillness. And people will tiss. Some will be drawn to you like moths to a flame. Others will recoil, unable to explain why. You'll trigger those who are not ready to meet themselves. You'll inspire those who are on the edge of awakening. But the most important thing is this: you won't need to do anything to have this effect. Your presence alone becomes an activation. Your silence becomes a sermon. Your integrity becomes a mirror that shows people where they're still hiding from their own power. This is the final sign that the dark chosen path has been walked fully. You no longer seek the light, you are it. Not the naive light of denial, but the earned light of reckoning. A light that came from burning every false layer, from dying to every identity, from surviving every spiritual fire. It's not the light that comforts people, but the light that wakes them up. It's not always welcomed, but it's always needed. And now you know everything that broke you, everything that confused you, everything that isolated you was preparation. The pain was never the punishment, but it was the portal. The loss was never the end. It was the initiation. The silence was not abandonment, but it was the recalibration. You were never being tested. You were being forged. So now, the question isn't whether the path is calling. The question is, are you ready to become the one you were always afraid to be? Not the version of you that plays small to be accepted. Not the version that hides your truth to keep the peace. The version of you that speaks flames, walks in shadows, and stands in impossible light. You've felt the signs. You've heard the call. You've seen through the illusions. Now there's only one thing left to do. Answer. And once you do, there is no turning back. Because once you've awakened in the shadows, you don't return to sleep. You light the way for others still walking in the dark.